Salmon have been the lifeblood of First Nations people since the beginning of recorded history, providing sustenance and a primary source of nourishment throughout coastal British Columbia and much of the interior. As well as being a staple, salmon have always been a way of life in that they have been an economical cornerstone and have been traded and sold to help provide a healthy and sustainable economic environment for First Nations people throughout British Columbia. First Nations fishers have historically and traditionally been stewards of the rivers and oceans for thousands of years, carefully monitoring river runs and subsequent harvests, and then moving on so as to leave little or no impact on a wild salmon which are so important to their way of life. There's been a sharp decline in wild salmon stocks in recent years due to a variety of man-made and natural impacts, such as commercial overfishing, mismanagement, or environmental changes. This has left First Nations and what was once a thriving commercial fishing industry virtually crippled. What was once a plentiful resource has now become an issue of great concern. While a relatively recent trend, raising salmon or salmon aquaculture has been practiced by First Nations people for almost 20 years. Understanding that the future of wild salmon stocks were quickly becoming endangered, Clemptu, a small remote village located on the central coast of BC, took what might have been the first steps towards salmon farming.
So one day, we come up with this idea that we're going to try and do our own fish farm. And I think it was a Swedish model. We adopted 300 tons annually. We had a couple of bucks in our pocket. We did that. Our product was marketed right in Vancouver to a restaurant there. We did Chinook and Coho. But we all know that when you enter into any kind of activity like that, business, there's no guarantees. So our pockets were not deep enough to support that kind of endeavor. But we knew that that was a big part of the answer. So we started talking to companies.
Like Clemptu, the village of Cayucot was also investigating the potential of finfish aquaculture as an economic opportunity for their community.
When I was on the band council, we started looking into fish farming in 1985, right up to 1989, and then got involved with the fish farm that was existing in Cayucot. And it's really worked out for us because we decided to be part of the solution rather than be the problem.
Today, after many years of struggle, several First Nations have found partners in the aquaculture industry and embrace salmon farming as a way to help ensure that their traditional relationships with salmon and other creatures of the sea remain strong, and to also provide an environmentally friendly, economic stability for their communities.
In terms of the fish farms directly impacting the communities financially or socially, I would say it's really been positive because I have worked as a Cayucot band chief in Cayucot for about 20 years. And whenever there is an opportunity in terms of employment, it makes a real positive impact in the community. Because I know that a person works and he's putting in his time working, it really makes a difference in his life and his family, which impacts the community. And then socially, it really changes the atmosphere in a community like Cayucot. And I have seen that firsthand. And right now, the only employment that we have is aquaculture, whether it's shellfish or fish farming. And it's really having a good impact in Cayucot.
And it's also been a positive influence in allowing our people to actually work at the site, to 15 people that have been employed there and 40 or so that are working at our fish plant when the harvest comes in. It's really positive. You could see it in the faces of our community members, knowing that, that life can be better. You can have employment and, be responsible and have all of that, everything that's out there available to you because you have an opportunity to work.
One of the positive aspects that industry has had in our community is the employment part. We've gone from 0 houses working on the farms, on the farm sites itself, to at one point in time, I believe, roughly the number was 60 plus that we had working out there. And not only on the farm sites, but we also we're able to get something going for some of our people to work at the processing plant.
So when we decided that if anything's going to happen in Clem 2, it's going to happen because of our own efforts. So we've set out to do that. Now this operation that you see sitting in Clem 2 now, it's bringing an income of $1.2, $1.3 million a year to the community. It's virtually replaced welfare. There's only a few people who are on welfare now, so it's a savings to the government as well. But it's provided our people with some economic opportunities, even though it's 6, 7 months a year. They love it.
Yeah, well, if you ask the community today, I'm sure that you get a very positive outlook on what having an aqua farm as part of our economic development outlook for our community is going to be quite positive. You know, Kitasoo has taken a much larger role. We're seeing more of our people actually employed in the day-to-day operations, and we also see a few of our members of our community, after getting the proper training, now playing management roles at the farm. Kitasoo is taking, you know, a positive, forward direction on trying to ensure that our interests are looked after, and that's going to be done by making sure that the proper training is done and that our people are always concerned and know what the issues are out there, and then trying to deal with them on site here in the community. And I think that's really important.
Aquaculture has a lot of potential for replacing jobs that aren't there anymore with respect to fisheries. The wild stock fisheries, the commercial fishing, has diminished within Cloquet First Nations. We don't own one commercial fishing vessel anymore, but certainly the majority of the fish plant workers are ex-fishermen because they can clean fish and they know the fish. And for those that don't enjoy the fish plant, come work on the farms. So
the opportunities are there for First Nation. You know, that they can get right in. They can be in the driver's seat right now. You know, they can be co-managers, they can be co-operators, they can be co-owners, eventually owning those particular licenses or sightings or whatever you like.
Without question, salmon aquaculture has made a positive and lasting impact on many First Nations communities. And with such a wide variety of jobs at many different levels, the aquaculture industry has actually opened doors for many that have been closed for some time.
The people, you see the people that are working now that used to be on welfare, they're smiling. And that's what makes us happy. That's why we continue to do the things that we have to do. I mean, we can't just freeze the clock.
Fish farming for me, and the reason that it's appealing to me, for one, is the environment. You look around, you look where we are. The great outdoors, fresh air. It's where I grew up. I'm used to it. And what it's brought to me, you know, is a lot of finer things in life that some people don't get to enjoy.
I like working on fish farms because it's beneficial to myself health-wise. I'm out in the open air, and for the production of fish for the world, for the people.
And being in the business for 3.5 years, I haven't seen anything to change my mind on wanting to get out of the industry. And I'm very happy to be here.
Our business, Frank Hunter, employs 10 employees, which is a good positive sign for a housing community. And our duties are pulling nets, dropping anchors, pulling up anchors, and just maintaining the farms. Sometimes we do feed, sometimes we drop off water and fuel. But, it's a good job. I like it. And
at this time we got 2 boats, and we employ about 10 to 15 people between the boats and the office. We have people on board from various bands up and down the coast, Cam River Band, Flawitz East Band, our band, and Nemkish, Alert Bay. So we got quite a variation of people on board.
I employ myself 5 guys on the boat when it's working, and it's really worked out for us, and we're really pleased with the way things are with the company, and it's always good to work with a company that has positive ways of working.
There's a lot of fishermen that are looking for things to do with their boats that are unlicensed, and you know, there's a lot of work out there. I mean, find out which equipment is being used or what can be improved on what they're doing, and I mean, there's feed deliveries, there's diving, there's hauling fish, there's jobs on the farm. I mean, there's tons of jobs in the industry, and it's, you know, it spins itself off around town.
Like our chief and chief counselors always said, that we need a breadwinner in every household in this community, and we have 100 homes in this community. So we have certain goals that we set for ourselves.
This journey has not been without its challenges, hence it has had and still has its share of critics. Environmentalists, commercial fishermen, and even other First Nations people have raised concerns about potential impacts to the ocean and its inhabitants.
I don't think there's one Indian band anywhere that wants to get into something that's going to pollute, destroy, or do anything harmful to the environment just for the sake of jobs. We're fully committed here because we have a feeling and we have an understanding that this is the future.
You know, First Nations people are really, you know, the logical stewards of the land, and it makes sense that they participate in the development of aquaculture.
And I'm proud to say that the Mamlaka aquaculture territories, the western section of the Broughton Archipelago, is the most cleanest area I've ever seen. There's no debris on the beaches. There's an active industry of fish farming taking place. They're cooperating and communicating to our band and our people.
Well, if I honestly believed that if I were harming the environment, I honestly believe I wouldn't be here.
Working out here, and I get to watch over what's happening out here, and I don't see anything wrong going on out here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
Issues of escapes of farmed salmon, predator control, and the heated debate on sea lice continue. However, given the determination of those First Nations involved in salmon aquaculture to protect the environment, anecdotal evidence thus far suggests that they have yet to be convinced of any impending danger.
What I understand is that the company doesn't like to see any escapes because it's dollars out the window. So therefore, we're all aware of the policies in terms of escapement, that we take preventative measures. And it's extra preventative measures.
On every salmon, on almost every animal that comes from the sea, you're going to see sea lice. It's a part of the animal. I mean, I just don't know what we're going to do. I mean, I don't know what I'd do if I see any salmon without it.
And what they did has really improved the way they look after their fish. So there's no predation happening. And in the past, you know, 3 or 4 years, it's been hardly anything. And I know now that talking to the guys, the managers and people that work here, they don't even have firearms on the sites, you know, and it really sends a message to me and to other people that, you know, whatever they're doing is working.
There have been many scientific and not so scientific studies, endless political debate, and emotions have run high on all fronts. It seems that with all this controversy, facts often become distorted and the real story tends to suffer.
We ourselves as First Nations can make our own decisions, keeping in mind that there is environmental groups and those interest groups out there that have their own interests, their own agendas, and the sad reality of it is they have negative impacts on coastal communities and especially First Nations communities.
In their propaganda campaign of destroying a tourism industry, talk to the whale watching companies, the bear watching companies, the hotel owners, the restaurants, the transport, the campgrounds. Talk to them all in the North Island and you will find out that their numbers were way down this year. And one of the main reasons, the propaganda campaign out there by the people that are anti-fish farm.
Myself, with regarding environmentalists and the issues that they're bringing out, a lot of it is untrue and a lot of it is misleading. And I think that, like I said earlier, says the best way to understand a fish farm or a fish farming operation is to come and see for yourself and how they are operating and see the kind of things that is being worked into it. I would say in the past 5 years it has changed a lot compared to what they used to do, and it's all positive.
How can they say there is no fish down there? There is a lot of fish down there, all kinds of fish. We used to catch halibut right up here in the wintertime, just alongside of the sites, and I always had fresh halibut, and even through the wintertime. Because these guys that say under fish farms are barren deserts, and the fish farmers are not speaking for me or any of my own people. We have to find out for ourselves that a lot of this stuff is not true.
I think that what they should do is have a look at it and be honest and come out and see what is going on. Then you can really spell out the truth. I think that's what's missing.
I don't know why this is getting blown out of proportion. It's just another thing to talk about to blacken the industry's name. If as soon as this is done and cleared itself up, it'll be something else. It's horrible that the way things go. It's almost like the environmentalists must sit there and think, well, we haven't heard a rumor yet, and it's lunchtime. Well, we better start one here. Let's try and put another black mark against the salmon farmer's name.
And they are telling lies about the Broughton Archipelago. They're making the world believe the Broughton Archipelago is an area of conflict between a fish farm industry and the First Nations, an area that is, in their words, contaminated by a fish farm industry. How untrue. I spend 4 to 6 months of my life each year for the last 15 years at Village Island, right in the western section of the Broughton Archipelago, right in the heart of the fish farming industry. And I hear all of the untruths about this industry. They have to look at the big picture. You have to accept everything and walk the middle ground. Find that common ground with all industries. And for God's sakes, don't believe the BS that's out there that's being put out by these environmentalists against fish farming, because it's not true.
Those opposed to the aquaculture projects, you just don't condemn it. You try to deal with it. What can you do to make it work? And that's what we did.
Despite accusations that salmon farms are polluting coastal waters and decimating populations of a wide variety of local sea life, these First Nations salmon farmers say that such claims couldn't be further from the truth.
Well, one of the most important things that came up when we discussed the bringing in aquafarm, because it's always been controversial especially for Native people and fishermen, people who have relied on the wild fishery, was what was this going to do to the bottom and everything that's surrounding the pens that were going to be put out there. And the important aspect of creating a relationship with the company that we have here now, Marine Harvest, was that they recognized that and allowed for our crew, our people that we chose to go out and actually do the dives, to survey the areas, not only below the fish farm pens, but the surrounding area. And we've done a number of dives, I believe 5,000 dives that have gone down and had a look and to date, we haven't got any negative reports back saying that there has been any detrimental activity of the seabeds surrounding the area.
You know, this place that we're drifting around in now has 3 clam beds. Our people are still eating the clams here. So, you know, us helping determine the sites makes that acceptable to it. It makes it workable.
I know fish farming. I know it's not detrimental to the environment. Our clam beaches are thriving. People make money at clam digging every year, every winter.
And we think that that's important to us, knowing that, you know, our way of life is not going to be affected by having a salmon farm in the area.
Next month, I'm going to go, like I do every year, to about 150 yards from a fish farm. And at low tide, I'm going to dig my clams, my cockles, pick my rocks with the barnacles on it, put my crab traps down, long lines for my halibut, probably fish around the pens, because I found that the pens are artificial reefs. There's all kinds of fish around there.
Yes, we go fishing off of the systems and we catch halibut that are, the smallest I've heard was 75 pounds up to 150 pounds. There is some crab fishing that are happening near shore, in between a farm and shoreline, and the crabs are abundant. And to my knowledge, also same with prawns.
No, we've had this 6 million pounds here for how long now? Our people still dig clams there. I eat shrimp every week. So if it's done properly, if it's planned properly, if the First Nations people have a major input in the siting and then it can work. I mean, it has happened here.
If expansion comes into effect, if we say, okay, let's put 6 more fish farms up here, I think that would be a great big benefit for everyone all around.
In their own words, with a great deal of knowledge and spurred by their successes, many First Nations have chosen salmon aquaculture as a viable and sustainable way to continue their time-honored relationship with salmon. In a time where long-standing resources are stressed and economic opportunities are few, it seems that some First Nations have found within the aquaculture industry a new opportunity to realize a healthy, responsible, and prosperous future for themselves. We as First Nations people have overcome many difficult challenges in adapting to this new world, and by incorporating the teachings of our ancestors into management strategies for salmon farming, we can look forward to a bright future. This journey has just begun, and many bridges have yet to be crossed. In order to achieve a level of harmony that we as First Nations require with Mother Nature, we must fully commit to the road ahead. And with words of encouragement and guidance, we leave you now to reflect upon these words from Mr. Percy Starr.
So if there's a problem with finfish agriculture, you work at it, you try to improve it. But don't ever accept the fact that it's going to be perfect. If you can flirt with excellence, be happy, you've done a good job.
Yeah.